Awesome.
Well, thank you everyone for joining and attending today's office hour. We're on office hour number 40. I still can't believe that we're still going forward with such great responses. Thank you all. We're going to continue doing these office hours as long as possible, getting you guys the content that you guys request the most. So we're going to talk about today ITSM Continual Improvement Management Best Practices and Overview. We have our wonderful subject matter expert here, Sean Hammer, who's been with ServiceNow for quite some time. But before we get into that, I want to make sure you guys all remember the ground rules. The first 30 minutes, all about the subject matter expert talking us through the topic nature, any foundational pieces, comments, questions, anything like that. If you have any questions as he's discussing certain things, feel free to throw it into the chat. And when we get a good time, I'll say, hey, Sean, there's a question in the chat window you need to kind of go through. But the remaining 30 minutes is all open floor for you guys to ask whatever questions you want of each other, as well as the subject matter expert on this topic. So for those who are listening to the video, thank you so much for listening to the video. If you have any questions, just feel free to post them in the community where you saw the video, and then we'll try to respond to those as soon as possible. So without further ado, Sean, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Charles. Been looking forward to this for quite a while. This is a special spot for me. I love continual improvement in general. The whole concept of CSI has been close to me for quite a while, and having this great product and the platform and the recent improvements we've made in other parts of the platform that I'll touch on here have just really changed how we can approach this. So folks, thanks for joining today and taking time out of your day to listen to me prattle on about this topic. I do hope you get a lot out of it. I'm going to share a lot that I have. I think there's just a lot to go through. A little about me. I've been at ServiceNow about 7.5 years now, and working in the product management team for ITSM. I am the outbound product management lead for the Americas. So I get North, Central, and South America, which is always great when we're not locked down with COVID and I get to go to South America. But right now that's not a thing. So I'm doing everything virtual. We work specifically with our customers, with the field teams, with our partners to talk about what we're doing in the platform. I talk about our strategic roadmap. I talk about our investments, why we're making investments where we are. And I listen for feedback from you all to know if we're making good choices. Things I love to hear are, of course, what we did really well in the last release. And what I love even more is what we didn't do well. I want to hear about that so we can do better next time. I get to take that directly back to the teams developing the product and tell them, hey, this thing you did, yeah, that really didn't go over so well. And these other things you did, they were good. And oh, by the way, you didn't do this at all, and everybody wants it. So this is your opportunity to get a direct line of feedback to the product development teams and say, hey, I really want this. Or you did this and it was really terrible. And maybe if you did it this way, it'd be better. Please, please, please give me that feedback so I can carry it back to the teams. My special area is really managing critical systems and running critical infrastructure. And so continual service improvement is a big piece of how you make sure that you're continuing to grow and not getting stuck. So let's jump into what does this mean in the ServiceNow platform? What are we offering? How does it apply? So let's just set some baseline for where this sits. So when you're a ServiceNow customer, of course, you get the platform. That's what we all talk about and know is this great platform. When you're an ITSM customer, you get the ITSM product suite, your incident, problem, change, request management, the things you're familiar with, asset and cost management, walk-up experience, agent workspace. ITSM Pro brings in the automation and the intelligent automation with machine learning. So things like predictive intelligence and predictive intelligence workbench, performance analytics, continual service improvement, service owner workspace, etc. And then ITSM Enterprise adds a couple new applications today and more in the future, specifically process optimization and workforce optimization. And these capabilities are crazy advanced using machine learning, process mining, and pulling data from across the platform to help you understand what's actually happening and what your folks are doing. Process optimization ties directly to continual service improvement. And so we'll touch that. But today We are talking about continual service improvement and continual improvement management in the ServiceNow platform. So I'm going to take us on a little bit of a journey here. And I'm going away from IT to start with, because I want to just set a framework and make sure everybody has their head around what this means to us. So I'm gonna take us to PACCAR's Renton truck plant, where they build the Kenworth and Peterbilt off-highway trucks, and talk about really a simple situation. We're going to basically talk about an experience with one worker who is responsible for installing an assembly on the trucks as they go through the assembly line, and an opportunity for improvement that occurred there and how they approached it. The reason I'm talking about this is to really highlight the difference between manufacturing and IT. Manufacturing has many complexities, but in a situation like this, it's actually not very complicated to get your arms around what we're talking about. So this plant builds 14 trucks a day, right? There's one truck every 57 minutes. This particular worker, installs 5 parts on each truck. And at their workstation on the assembly line, they have 17 of these parts ready to install. So that means that when a truck comes in, they bolt on 5 of these pieces in different places, and then the truck moves on. And they have 17 of them. So they can work on 3 trucks before their station has to get restocked. Why is that important? It's important because how does the station get restocked? If they were nuts and bolts, you'd have huge bins of them, and that wouldn't be an issue. But because these are assemblies, they have a limited number of them at the workstation where this person is doing their job. When they have to restock, they have to walk over to the warehouse. It's a 5-minute walk. They have to sign out the parts. It takes another 3 minutes because the parts are serialized. So they have to record the serial numbers for each one of them. And they can only grab 15 parts to bring back because they have 2 already. They're always going to have 2 in their bin ready to go. They can't get more than 17 in there. And so when they walk back, it's another 5 minutes. They put the parts away for a minute, 5 minutes to get the cart back to the warehouse, and 5 minutes to get back to the workstation. So 24 minutes. So nearly a half hour for every 3 trucks that they're working on. And if you're building 14 trucks a day at 57 minutes a truck, that adds up, and it actually becomes material. So an hour, 36 minutes a day of lost production for one employee, that's 1.68 trucks. This is a process that a person can get their arms around with a stopwatch and a clipboard and taking notes on what's going on. And the problem that they had was they didn't understand that this was a bottleneck. Why do we have this 24-minute break every 3 trucks that this person has to go and get parts? And identifying that they had to go to a warehouse to get them, and that it took them 40 minutes of walking back and forth to get that done every day was crazy. And so redesigning the workstation to accommodate more parts was a simple solution. Great, these aren't big parts. One person can move 100 of them at a time, but they have to be each in their own space, laid out, ready to go, so the assembly line can work. This is a process that is easy to understand. When we start talking about IT processes, it's a different conversation completely. You're going to have distributed teams working in different locations, doing different parts of the process to accomplish the work. One person with a clipboard and a stopwatch can't understand what the impact is to the organization. 10 people with clipboards and stopwatches probably can't understand it. And so having the ability to look into your processes and your services to find those areas and really understand what's happening is a big piece of what we're talking about. You have to be able to identify a need to start working on an improvement. Okay, so my digression's over with the truck. So let's talk about what is continual service improvement. This isn't new. This has been around for a long time. You have ITIL, you have Lean, Six Sigma, Kaizen, Total Quality. There are others, but all of these are different frameworks or styles for managing continual improvement. Lean, Six Sigma, Kaizen are probably the best known in the manufacturing world, ITIL, of course, in our IT world. And this is a critical process for ITIL, and understanding how it fits in the whole stack. Having a process to follow and a way to track your progress and outcomes across multiple disciplines is really critical to success. If you don't have a way to track it, then you're creating one. And so having a framework to start with is important. Continual service improvement isn't the first thing you're going to implement in your organization. This is something that is, it's needed all along, but you have to have some data, you have to have some structure in place to start with, you have to have processes in place to start with. Without all of those, it's like playing whack-a-mole. You're watching for an issue to come up and you're chasing it down to try and fix it quickly. And that's, I've operated in that world. I've seen it over and over, and it's detrimental to morale as well as productivity and quality. So things you really are looking to avoid. The beautiful thing about continual service improvement is that it typically starts from employees doing work and identifying that there's an opportunity to make something better. And you end up with greater employee satisfaction because they're able to directly impact and improve the work they're doing. You're also getting better engagement, and you're creating a culture of improvement, which will lead to a culture of innovation. And that's really a natural progression. So where does this fit overall? So when we talk about the ServiceNow journey that we talk about a lot, the step one, revolutionize, modernize IT service operations. So this is getting your reduced tool set, not having the maximum number of tools you can have to do the work. It's having the minimum number of tools, having everything on one platform, getting your processes organized and understood, and starting to really clarify what the goals are, cleaning up old processes that are doing work that don't need to be done anymore. Starting then to optimize with automation, bringing in intelligent automation, machine learning, and building out those workflows that'll do the work for you. And then finally optimizing where you're trying to get the last few percent that you can see today of improvement for your organization. Understanding in advance how many people you need to be on the service desk when certain things are happening, knowing where your process bottlenecks are, and understanding how to impact those. So this is really a part and parcel to step 2 and 3 of the ServiceNow journey. In step 1, you're really building the foundation to be able to take advantage of this. So how is what ServiceNow offering different than what you can see from other folks? We have a lightweight framework. It's based on Plan, Do, Check, Act, which is a really common framework for doing continual improvement. So PDCA is really the basis for how the work gets done, and really the edges of the framework. Having everything within the ServiceNow platform, you're able to see what's happening ahead of time and proactively make choices about which data you're using, which data is important, and you have the data, of course, in the one place. The workbench that we provide with continual improvement management gives you dashboards. So you have immediate visibility into business outcomes achieved with continual improvement. You can identify whether you're succeeding or whether the initiative is not working and you're not getting the expected outcome or the improvement that you planned on. You also have the ability to generate reports out of that and visualizations to show leadership, to justify the effort. And if you think about every ask from IT is responded to with, how is this going to save us money? How is this going to improve an outcome? With continual service improvement, you can identify in advance what you expect. You can identify when you expect to see it. And then when you do see the result, you know what you're reporting because you're monitoring it all the way through the process. This is really important to being able to add additional functionality and create more opportunities to improve and streamline your IT operations. So identifying the opportunities, using the tools available in ITSM Pro, surveys and assessments, benchmarks, post-incident review, coaching module, performance analytics, all of these provide data-driven insights. And they're, of course, the integrations are already built in for continual improvement management. So you can see that immediately, you can launch straight from there. This gives you the ability to identify your opportunities from data. You can also identify simply by talking to different teams, by giving folks a pathway to submit ideas for improvements. So the demand ideation and demand module, part of our IT business management suite, allows for that really easily, and that's tied directly into the continual improvement module. Using this, you also get to align with your strategic goals overall. One of the things that is, I think, really important is understanding where the improvement initiative fits in the grand scheme of your enterprise. Is it aligning with the goals set out by leadership? Is it supporting your end game? And of course, setting smart goals. So being able to do that within the platform, and SIM is set up to do that out of the box. So your smart goals are already defined, and you have the ability to measure your KPIs right off of that. Out of box value realization dashboard, again, is huge to be able to see what's actually being achieved. All of this and getting it out in front of folks is going to foster that improvement culture and get more people engaged in thinking about how to make things better. The number one reason employees don't provide feedback to improve outcomes is because they don't feel like they're heard, or they feel like they provide the feedback and nothing happens from it. This is an opportunity to get that data out in front of the employees who are providing feedback, demonstrating that it's being heard, it's being acted on, and this was the result of the feedback. That's huge in keeping people satisfied or improving satisfaction, and in increasing the amount of feedback they give. It also helps improve the quality of the feedback that's given. It's easy for someone to say, this process is terrible, it doesn't work, and I don't like it. It's a lot different for them to say, this process doesn't achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve because it is causing us to do three different teams are doing the same work at the same time, and two of them aren't necessary, obviously, and we're doing the process in a way that's causing us to expend more effort than is necessary. Getting lean, we all understand that. So removing process gaps, identifying opportunities to reduce friction in processes, and then being able to explain the what, the how, and the why. And again, driving toward innovation. I think innovation is the key. At a point, improvement becomes innovation, because you're no longer fixing something that's broken. You're starting to act on things that haven't been identified yet and create new things. But this whole process, getting folks to think that way, is really the end game. I saw something come up in the chat. Charles, is there a question I should jump on, or?
So from Jacob says, since we are talking about feedback, does the IDEA portal integrate with CIM?
Yes, it does. I've got a slide in a little bit talking about all the different out-of-box integrations, and I'll go through all of that. But yeah, it absolutely does. And here it is. So broad support across ServiceNow platform. What does that mean? Out of box, you can create improvement requests out of a huge list of applications, IDEA being one of them, GRC, demand, CMDB, right down the line. And this is something that as we continue to add more functionality to the platform, we're always looking for where to integrate and make that work possible. There are some applications right now that don't have integrations that are in process, and we'll see those in future releases. And then as part of an initiative or a sim task, you can go the other direction and create a demand or a project or a change. And where this is really important, sometimes a continual improvement project is really just a very simple, very short, easy change that gets made. Sometimes it's a lot more difficult and a lot more complex and really requires a project to be stood up around it. And it might need approvals. You might have multiple changes. You might have development tasks that get assigned out. So your agile stories could get created. And so depending on what the initiative is, you're going to tie into different modules in the platform to support that work. But the key here is that we're all in one platform, one family, and here at ServiceNow, we're continuing to build out those integrations out of box. So when you enable the capability, that integration is turned on automatically for SIM, and it's not something you have to go configure. It's just there immediately once you've enabled the plugin. So let's talk a bit about best practices. Who's involved in continual improvement management? So improvement requesters, typically you'd assign that to IT staff, service process owners, managers, management staff, analysts, really anybody who has database insights on how your services and processes are working. That's somebody who should be able to make a request. You don't want everybody in an organization to be able to make a request or in the entire enterprise. Folks need to understand what they're asking. The right place for everyone would be the idea portal, where everybody can give their feedback. You can enable crowdsourcing and voting, and that's a much better place for everyone. For requesters, you want that to be a subset. So it's folks who really understand what they're asking and why, and have some training. Your improvement manager is really the owner of the improvement program. They're the ones helping to foster the continual improvement culture in your organization. These folks really are wearing multiple hats like everyone. And in this scenario, they're managing a program, but they're also an evangelist for continual improvement. And they're sharing and telling folks why it's important, why we're doing it, what the outcome is that we're going to achieve. How do you as an individual benefit from being involved in it and giving that feedback or participating? And your improvement coordinators, that again is typically your process and service owners. They're going to be the ones who are really managing the work at a high level. So they're assigned on improvement initiatives based on the improvement area and subject matter expertise. That way you're ensuring a successful delivery of your improvement outcomes by knowing that the coordinators are folks who have a deep knowledge of that subject matter. How do you know that you have an opportunity? It's interesting. So identification of an opportunity is useless unless you also identify the desired improvement. I mentioned before, this process is terrible. It is very different than this process is terrible. It doesn't do X, Y, and Z to achieve this outcome. You have to be able to measure the outcome to know if the effort resulted in an improvement. So you have to identify measurable work. You want to take a crawl, walk, run approach. You don't want to boil the ocean. So you want to do this on a small scale. So for instance, I'm going to jump back to the truck plant. We talked about one person doing one job in that plant. How many hundreds of people are doing the same job? Basically bolting things onto a truck chassis as it goes through the assembly line. You come up with a change, you apply it to one person in that scenario, and then you observe how that works. Did it achieve the outcome that we expected? Were there unintended consequences we didn't plan for? Once you know that you're achieving the outcome and the unintended consequences are non-existent, or they're beneficial, or they're understood and accepted, then you roll it out to a group. And then after that's successful, you understand it, you roll it out organization-wide. The key, though, is to recognize that with continual improvement, for it to be successful, it is iterative, and it isn't boiling the ocean. Your R&D efforts are the place where you're going to come up with the completely new concepts and go from 0 to 100 all at once. With continual improvement, you're going to go 0 to 5, and then 5 to 15, and then 15 to 50. But it's a slower, more iterative approach. When you're planning, you also need to understand when you'll be able to see if your improvement initiative is succeeding. So knowing what to measure, when to measure it, how to measure it, and understanding that your KPIs have to be able to tell you if it's succeeding or not. That can reduce the time to failure or eliminate a larger scale failure. It can also reduce the time to success and rolling out to a broader audience. Really important. When you're implementing, again, you're walking, then running, and then once it works, it's a lather, rinse, repeat. You're just going to do the same process over and over and continue to do that and continue getting those results. So what are your sources? If you're an ITSM Pro customer, you're going to look at customer feedback and complaints, your process KPIs and internal process assessments using PA and platform reporting on down the line. The key here is that you're starting out with data-driven initiatives. You're looking at the data to understand this. I think in parallel to this, it is completely reasonable and expected to use anecdotal data from individuals, talking to service desk folks about how things are going, listening to their chatter, finding out what people have already identified as opportunities for improvement to see if they can be turned into something that is measurable and can be an initiative that works well. So populating the dashboard to start with, these are good sources to get you moving and get your first initiatives identified. Choosing them, of course, becomes an exercise all of its own, and understanding where you have resources to do the work, where you have budget, what is going to yield the best outcome. And the best outcome may not be the biggest impact. It may simply be the quickest time to value, or it may be the simplest, so that you really are doing the crawl part of this and getting the team stood up to understand how to implement continual improvement. And then from there, working on more impactful, more complicated, and maybe more highly visible initiatives. But again, it is iterative and it's repeatable. So where can you learn more about this? Right out of the gate, the ServiceNow Docs SIM homepage is huge. We have a tremendous amount of information there on how to implement and set up. We also have within the platform, we have a guided setup for continual improvement management. So if you've used our guided setups in the past, great, you have some idea. If you haven't, it really, it sets up a homepage for implementation and walks you through all the steps for implementing continual improvement management. And there are checklists. There are links out to instructions for deeper information if you don't know certain things. It works really well. In our community site, Manjeet Singh has created a bunch of blog posts over the last 3 years about this. And there continues to be more information put up all the time about continual improvement management. You can simply search for continual improvement management right on the community's homepage. And then we'll also send out these links to you all so you have them available. These are 3 articles that Manjeet wrote that I found to be particularly good. Manjeet is just an ace in this space. He's just a wonderful guy. But this is a good place to get started. So with that, we're 32 minutes in. Let's open the floodgates and have some conversations. What are your experiences with continual improvement? Do you have an issue? Do you have a process or a program already in place in your organization? Have you had some challenges? Have you already touched continual improvement management ServiceNow and have questions? Let's have it.
All right, team. The floor is open. Who would like to ask the first question, or would you like to put it in the chat and I'll read it out loud? Whichever way you guys feel comfortable, but the floor is now open for you guys to ask questions to Sean. And let me know if you guys are having any problems. Oh, there we go. Jose. So is continual improvement included with Pro or Enterprise?
Continual improvement is included with Pro. With Enterprise, what you get is the process optimization engine. That's where things shift a little bit. And I didn't really get into that very much. I'll touch on it really briefly here. It is a separate conversation all of its own. It's a huge application with crazy capabilities. So imagine the ability to see how users are going through a process and what they're doing by evaluating logs and clicks and data, and then creating a map of the process that's being used versus a process that's defined, and being able to see the differences between them. Identifying friction points. So the machine learning identifies where multiple teams are doing the same work, or where multiple individuals are doing the same work, or where there's friction or bottleneck, or where folks are going around a process where you have it laid out to go one way and folks are going a different way. Using process optimization as an input for continual improvement is completely next level. You're going behind the curtain inside the data, and then having the machine tell you where there are opportunities, and then helping you classify and rate them and rank them. So you know how big the opportunity is, what the savings might be, and then be able to decide whether that fits in with what you want to achieve at that time. It really is next level. Charles, have we done a talk on process optimization? I don't think I have.
No, we have not. Is that something that we should have, like
We
a
should do
separate
that.
session on?
Yeah, we should put together an office hours on that. It's
Okay.
extraordinary.
Oh, Jose gave a thumbs up too, and definitely other customers, if you guys feel the same way, I'll definitely try to line that up. It's that easy to try to get a good topic into the office hours selection queue. So just definitely let us know. Great question there, Jose. And it looks like that answered your question there. Did you have another question you want to ask? And you can also too take yourself off mute if you feel more comfortable. If not, go ahead and type it in and I'll ask that question out to Sean. Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Jose.
Has anybody been involved in the continual improvement process in the past? And anyone, just don't feel like you need to jump in and say anything about it. Maybe just a wave or anything. Let me know if any of you have, or if this is just all new topic for everybody.
Okay, let's see. So Jacob, we implemented Idea Portal and are using it currently only for feeding the demand management process. The demand management process has a lot of processing involved before it gets to an enhancement. We have small initiatives that seem to be overpriced, overprocessed by demand management. How do you see Idea, CIM, and demand all working together? Do steps in CIM also affect the status displayed on the Idea Portal? Wow, that's a really good one.
This is great. Thanks, Jacob. This is fantastic. So demand management, you can adjust the process to be a little bit lighter than what it is. And so I totally get that it can easily over process some of the things that come in. So let me just hit these one at a time so I don't get myself too far off track. Small initiatives can be identified as ideas, and instead of processing them through demand, you can go straight from idea to continual improvement. If it's if that's the type of idea that it is, which frequently they are. So you can bypass demand management completely and go idea to SIM. So then your demand management is taken out of it. You're not going to overprocess that lighter framework. SIM and demand are all working together. And the beauty of it, though, is that you can create a demand from SIM or create a SIM from demand. That's a bidirectional. And the idea there is that sometimes the idea will come in and it might be a much bigger idea, and a piece of it might be spun out as a continual improvement initiative that can be done quickly and with lighter effort than the overall demand, but to get an immediate result that is material and important, but lower effort and doesn't require the same level of management and oversight. You could also have a continual improvement management initiative that's vast and requires more oversight and approval. So if you think demand management, think approvals and really high level management to say, yeah, we're going to do this. With SIM, think small, light tasks and really task oriented that probably is going to require less approval and less oversight. So the two work together that way to complement. And then in terms of steps in SIM also affecting statuses displayed in idea, yes. So you can turn that on or off. Not all organizations want every step to be visible as things are happening. Oftentimes users get pretty excited about things, and then you can be overrun with questions and requests for information about something that's working and happening rather than having the space to do the work. But yeah, you can impact either direction. So, or I'm sorry, SIM can impact Idea Portal, so folks can see changes. Jacob, if that's not enough, let me know. I'm happy. If there's something more you want me to touch, I will. If that's perfect, great, awesome.
Oh, perfect. He responded, excellent, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to launch the poll. Looks like we're starting to, a couple of folks are starting to drop. So I'm going to launch the poll. While I do that, are there any other questions for Sean while we have him? And we'll definitely get to work on scheduling an office hour. Maybe we'll do even a special office hour later this year. I know I say later this year. Well, today's the last day of September, so we got
There's still
October,
time in the year,
November.
Charles. There's still time in the year.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, we definitely will want to get that in. Any other final questions for Sean while we have him here? If not, please just go ahead and fill out. Oh, completely getting excellent ratings here, Sean. So definitely, if not, thank you guys so much for attending this office hour. I always appreciate you, Sean. You are an amazing resource here at ServiceNow. I look forward to partnering with you on a couple of other office hours in the future. And definitely take care. If you guys are listening to this video, let us know any feedback as well in the comments section. We plan to keep doing these, like I said, as based upon the feedback. So I appreciate everyone's time. Looks like everyone responded to the poll. No other questions here. Have a great rest of your Thursday and an awesome weekend, everyone. Take care.